Once upon a time, there was an old widow woman who lived with her 3 daughters in a little house at the base of a mountain. Now, the family was not very well off, and they only owned one animal, which happened to be a hen. The old woman loved this hen. She would pet it and care for it, and it would follow her from room to room and around the yard. But one day, the hen disappeared. It wasn't in the house, it wasn't in the yard. No one could figure out where it had gone. And the old woman was beside herself. She loved this hen. So she went up to her eldest daughter and she said, "Look, you need to go and find our hen. Go out into the world, look everywhere for it. Go as far as you have to. If you have to go into the mountain itself, I don't care. Just find the hen." So the oldest girl went out looking for the hen, and she called for it, and she looked everywhere she could, but she just couldn't find it. It wasn't anywhere. So she wandered on until she was walking along the base of the mountain, and she came across a cave. And as she passed it, a voice came out of the cave, and the voice said, "Your hen is in the mountain. Your hen is in the mountain." And the girl stopped and what? And she went up to the cave to check, and she looked into the cave, and she stepped into the cave. But as soon as she did, she fell through a trapdoor deep into the mountain. The girl landed, and she looked up, and she was in a room, but it didn't look like just an ordinary cave. It was a beautiful room full of jewels and gold and silver, furnishings, rich furnishings. Everything was lovely. The girl didn't know where she was or how she got here. She was scared. She got up and she saw a door, and she went to the door, and she went through the door, and there was another room on the other side of the door, and it was even better than the room she'd just come from. She started wandering from room to room, and every room was more lovely than the one before, until she finally came to a room at the very end of the little string of rooms. And in this room was sitting a big, ugly troll. And as soon as it saw the girl, he jumped up and he came towards her, and the girl shrank back against the wall. And the troll said to the girl, "Will you be my sweetheart?" And the girl, just spontaneously reacting, said, "No, no, 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 I will not be your sweetheart, no." The troll was so angry to hear this that it leapt upon the girl, picked her up, took her head, twisted it off, and then threw her body and her head into the cellar. Well, back at the house, now there was a child missing, and the old woman was very upset. She said to the second daughter, "Look, you have to go out after your sister. I don't know what's happened to her, and also the hen is still missing. So please go and find your sister and bring her home. And if you happen to run across our hen on the way, then bring it home too. I really miss that hen." So the second girl went out, and she wandered along looking for the hen, and she called to her sister, and she called to the hen, but nothing. There was no one and nothing around. And so she walked on until she too was walking along the base of the mountain and came across the same cave. And the same voice came out of the cave saying, "Your hen is in the mountain. Your hen is in the mountain." So the girl was, "What?" And she went up to the cave, and she looked into the cave, and she stepped into the cave, and she fell through the trapdoor deep into the mountain. And she too found herself in a beautiful room. And she too was quite frightened, but she got up and she started wandering from room to room, and each one was more lovely than the room before, until she came to the last room, and there was the troll again. And the troll got up as she entered the room, and the girl shrank back against the wall. And the troll came up to the girl and said, "Will you be my sweetheart?" "No, no, 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 absolutely, I will not be your sweetheart, no." The troll again was so angry that it leapt upon the girl and picked her up and twisted off her head, and then threw her body and her head into the cellar. Well, now there were 2 girls missing, and the widow was just about at the end of her rope. She went to her 3rd daughter, the youngest child, and she said, "Your 2 sisters are missing, and I don't know what's going to happen if things keep going this way. Go out and find your sisters, no matter what it takes, no matter how far you have to go. And if you happen to run into our hen along the way, maybe bring it back too. I really, really want the hen back." So the 3rd girl went out into the world, and she walked and she called to her sisters and she called to the hen, but there was again nothing. She could not find anyone or anything. So she kept walking and walking, and finally she was walking along the base of the mountain when she came across the same cave, and the voice came out of the cave saying, "Your hen is in the mountain, your hen is in the mountain." What? And the girl went up and looked into the cave, and then she stepped into the cave, and then she fell through the trapdoor deep into the mountain. But the youngest sister was a little more clever and a little more brave than the eldest 2, and she wasn't afraid. She looked around herself and saw the beautiful furnishings and the gold and the silver, and she took note of all of them. And then she went into the next room and took note of everything that was in there. And she walked from room to room, and every time there was a door, she would try that door. At one point, she tried a door, and it turned out to be the cellar door, and she opened it and looked down into it, and there were the bodies of her sisters at the bottom of the stairs. And so this was a bit of a clue that she was in a bit of trouble, and she said to herself, "Oh, okay, I need to avoid that." And so she walked on through the rooms until she came to the last room with the troll in it. And the troll stood up and came towards her, but the girl stood her ground. And the troll said to the girl, "Will you be my sweetheart?" And the girl, who could see which way the wind was blowing, said, "Oh, yes, yes, I will be your sweetheart. That sounds amazing." And the troll was extremely happy that suddenly someone had agreed to be his sweetheart. So he and the girl started living together in the caverns. Now, a little bit of time passed, and the troll started noticing that his sweetheart was quite sad a lot of the time. And finally, he went to talk to her, and he said, "Oh, darling, what's wrong? You always look so sad." And the girl looked at the troll, and she said, "Well, I was thinking about my mother. She's up there all alone. All of us are gone now. She doesn't even have a hen. I don't know what's happening to her. She must be so lonely, and she must be so hungry. I think she probably needs food by this point." And the troll, listening to this, said, I think we can do something for your mother. I would be okay with that." "Really? You would do something for my mother for me?" "Absolutely, absolutely. I will take your mother some food. I can't let you go back to her, of course not, but I can take her food." "I will make up a packet of food right away. Thank you so much." "However," said the girl, "I am a very private person, and I do want to make up this packet for my mother, but I want to do it alone. I want to, just be with me in the packet. So if you could go out of the room, I'll make up the bundle, and then you can come back in and get it." And the troll agreed this sounded reasonable to him, so out of the room he went. Immediately, the girl found the biggest sack that she could, and she filled this sack almost to the brim with gold and silver, because in the last few weeks she'd been noticing where all the gold and silver was kept. So at the very top of the sack, she spread a layer of food so it looked like the whole thing was food. And then she tied it up, and she called in the troll, and she said, "All right, here you go. Here's a sack for my mother. There's just one thing. Again, I am a very, very private person, and I put a lot of my private self into that sack, and I really don't want you looking inside it, so please don't. And please promise not to look inside it. And if you do, I will see you do it, and I will know." So the troll said, "Oh, I swear I will not look inside the sack." And it took the sack, and he slung it over his back, and Ah, that's heavy. That's extremely heavy. How was food this heavy? I don't understand. But he had promised, so off he went through the caverns with the sack. Now the girl just followed behind him to see how he got out. And the troll went up and he pulled out a ladder that he kept behind some things, and he put it up to the trapdoor, and then he climbed up the ladder. Now, the girl knew that if she did try to escape at this point, the troll would come after her, so she didn't. She did, however, climb up the ladder after him, and she peeked out to watch him go. And the troll went thudding out of the cave and towards the widow's house. And as he went, he realized that this really, really was very heavy, much heavier than it should have been if it just had food in it. And he said to himself, I have to look in this. So he took the sack and he swung it down to the ground, and he was just about to untie it when the girl, who was peeking out through the trapdoor, said, I can see you, I can see you. And the troll went, what? Oh, she has good eyes. And so he picked the sack up again without opening it, slung it over his back, and on he went to the widow's house. It was night at this point, and everybody around was asleep, because trolls don't really do very well in the sunlight. So the troll got to the house, opened the door, slung in the sack, and called to the widow, who had just woken up. This is from your daughter. She says hello. She can't come and see you, but she's fine. And off he went to the mountain again before the sun rose. So they continued to live together for a while. And then there was this one day when a billy goat wandered into the cave and fell through the trapdoor. And the troll didn't like this very much. He had a bit of a temper. And when the billy goat turned up, the troll was just like, how dare you? And he picked up the billy goat and he twisted off its head and he threw its body into the cellar. And the girl was just standing there like, what? Why did you do it? I could have played with that goat. I would have been friends with it. Why did you do that? And the troll said, oh, I'm so sorry. I have a bit of a temper. It's okay though. I can bring him back to life. And he grabbed the goat's body, not the troll's body, the goat's body, and the head, and he took the head and he popped it back onto the goat. And then he took a flask that had been hanging on the wall, and he poured the contents over the goat, and then the goat sprang back to life. And the girl was like, hooray, I have a goat to play with, but she was also storing the information away in her brain. So for a while they just lived together again, and then there was one day when the girl went to the troll and she said, I've been thinking about my mother again, and I'm pretty sure that by this point she's running out of food. So if you could just take her another sack, I will put it together myself as a private person as I am, and then you can take it off. And the troll agreed, and he went out of the room, and the girl sprung into action. She went down to get the biggest sack she could. She filled it full of gold and silver, but not quite all the way this time, because she also went to the cellar and she dragged out her eldest sister's body and head. And then she took the head, put it on the body, took the flask, poured it over the sister, and the sister sprang to life. The sister was quite disconcerted, but the youngest girl says, shh, okay, it's all right, it's okay. I'm gonna get you out of this. Just do exactly what I say. So she put her sister in the sack after giving her certain instructions, and then covered her with food and tied the sack up and called the troll in and said, okay, here's the sack. Please take this to my mother. But remember, don't open the sack. I can see you. So the troll took the sack, put it on his back, and yet again, this was a very heavy sack. I don't understand what is in this thing. So he took the sack out. This time the girl just stayed in the caverns, and the troll went out himself, and he walked towards the widow's house in the darkness, and oh, it was so heavy. Why? So he had to just take it off, and he just had to look inside to see what was there. And he was untying the sack when the girl from inside the sack said, I can see you. I can see you. And the troll, what? Oh, She has such good eyes. I've never heard of anyone with eyes this good. So he tied the sack back up again, put it around his back, took it to the widow's house, left it there, and then went back to the caves. Now a little bit more time passed, and the same thing happened again. The girl told the troll she needed to send her mother some food. The troll agreed to leave her along with the bag. This time she rescued her second sister, brought her back to life, popped her head back on, poured the flask over her, put her in the sack, and called the troll in to take the sack away, reminding him that she could see him all the time. So the troll picked up the sack, went out of the cavern, walked towards the widow's house, but the sack was so heavy. He couldn't believe how heavy it was. And he was almost at the widow's house, but he was just, I have to look in. There can't be just food in here. There can't be. So he put the sack on the ground and was just opening it up when the girl inside it called out, I can see you. I can see you. What? I'm almost, how can she see so far? How is this possible? I have a very talented sweetheart back in a cave there. So he tied up the sack, slung it over his back, hurried to the widow's house, threw the sack through the door, and off he went home. And now there was just the girl and the troll. And a little bit more time went by. But then one day, the girl called the troll in and she said, I'm just not feeling very well today. I have a fever and a cough. And I do want to make you dinner. I will, but I need a little bit of time to recover first. So if you could go out hunting, it's, the sun has set, it's nice weather. Go out hunting for a bit, and by the time you come home, I'll be recovered and I'll have a nice dinner for you. So the troll said, oh, feel better, dear. I hope you feel better soon. And out he went to hunt. And immediately the girl went to a room that she had noticed a while ago, and she got a bundle of straw. And she took this straw and she shaped it into a girl that looked just like her, and dressed this girl in her clothing and leaned her in the corner of the kitchen. And then she just booked it out of there. She went up the ladder out of the cave and ran for home. On the way, she did stop at the home of a marksman, and she hired him. She said, I need you right now. Please come with me. I will pay you. Come to my mother's house. And so she took the marksman home with her. And the whole family and the random marksman were reunited, with the exception of the hen, which had apparently disappeared forever. So the troll did his hunting and arrived back home again and went to find his wife and or sweetheart, honey, I'm home, and went into the kitchen to get his dinner. And there his sweetheart was standing in the corner of the kitchen, but there didn't appear to be food anywhere. And the troll said, well, where's my dinner then? And the girl just stood there. The troll said, woman, I asked you a question. Where is my dinner? But the girl just stood there. The troll said, I will give you one more chance and one only. You will obey me. Answer me now. Where is my dinner? But the girl just stood there. And the troll lost his temper, ran at her, picked her up, and popped off her head, which was made of straw, as was her body. And he ended up with a handful of straw, realized right away what had happened and how he had been fooled, and went running out of his cave out into the night. And he ran and he ran and he ran until he came to the widow's cottage. Now, trolls are not very quiet, and everyone could hear him coming. So as soon as the girl heard the thumping, she told the marksman to shoot his gun into the ceiling, which he did. Bam! And the noise echoed out inside and outside the cottage. And the troll, who was just coming up to the cottage at that moment, thought it sounded like thunder from inside a house. He'd never heard anything like it before. And he was like, oh, no, Oh, they've got Thor in there. They have Thor in that house. The god of thunder is in there. I cannot go in there. Holy. And the troll just turned around and he ran back towards the mountain. But dawn was coming. And just as the troll reached the cave, the sun rose, and the first beam of light hit the troll, and the troll exploded into 1,000 pieces. Well, the family was finally reunited for good, the mother and the 3 daughters, though sadly not the hen. And they began to live together on their huge heap of gold and silver. The 3 girls did at one point go back to the mountain to see if they could get some more treasure, perhaps, but the cave had disappeared, and there was no way of getting down into the mountain. And they passed the story on to their children and their children's children, and every once in a while people would go to the mountain and see if they could get in and get the treasure, but no one could ever do so. They knew the treasure was there, but until this day, no one has ever been able to find the way in.